Nobody is coming to live your life for you. It's all on you. That's the truth that hits hard but sets you free. Most people waste years waiting for help, support, or a sign before they act. They think someone else will care enough to push them forward. But the reality is, if you don't care enough to take control, nobody else will. Depending on yourself means you stop waiting. You stop asking for permission. You make your own moves, even when it's uncomfortable. You solve problems without waiting for advice. You back your decisions with action and accept the outcome. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that strength, the kind that makes you capable in any situation. By the end, you'll know how to live in a way where you're in control, not hoping someone else will take charge. Because if you want change, it starts with you, and only you. Number 1, stop blaming others for the problems you can solve. You want to know the first real step to learning how to depend on yourself? It's simple to say, but hard to do. Stop blaming other people for the problems you could solve yourself. That's where true independence begins. Most people don't even realize how much energy they waste pointing fingers, explaining why something is someone else's fault, or waiting for someone else to fix it. The truth is, when you put the responsibility in someone else's hands, you also give them control over your life. You hand over your future without even noticing. If you keep doing that, you'll always be at the mercy of other people's choices. I've seen this play out in real life again and again. Someone complains about their boss holding them back, about their friends not supporting them, about the economy, about luck. The pattern is always the same. The problem is real, yes, but they spend their time blaming instead of doing. They tell themselves that as long as the situation is someone else's fault, they don't have to do anything about it. That mindset is comfortable, but it's also the biggest trap you can fall into. If you truly want to be independent, you have to face a hard truth. No one is coming to save you. That's not meant to discourage you, it's meant to wake you up. You have the ability to take control over more than you think. If your finances are a mess, you can learn to budget, increase your income, and cut unnecessary costs. If your health is bad, you can start eating better, moving more, and resting enough. If your relationships are toxic, you can choose to walk away or address the conflict. These aren't instant fixes, but they are within your control. And every time you choose action over blame, you get stronger. Blaming others does something dangerous to your mind. It tells you that you're powerless. It feeds the belief that the outcome of your life depends on someone else's mood, decisions, or mistake. That's not a belief you can afford to hold if you want to live with dignity. You can acknowledge that other people have done wrong by you without letting that stop you from moving forward. You don't have to ignore the unfairness of life, but you do have to refuse to let it control your next step. Think about how different your life would look if you made a rule for yourself. If I can do something about it, I will. That single decision changes the way you wake up, the way you handle setbacks, the way you look at challenges. You stop waiting for the right time or the right person to come along because you know it's up to you. You stop wasting days in frustration because you're too busy working on the solution. Now, here's the reality check most people avoid. Taking full responsibility for your problems is uncomfortable. It forces you to see where you've been lazy, careless, or afraid. It demands that you admit you've been holding yourself back, not someone else. That's not easy to swallow, but that discomfort is exactly what makes you grow. When you stop blaming, you start owning every part of your life. And ownership is the foundation of self-reliance. You might be thinking, but what about the things that really aren't my fault? Of course, some situations are caused by forces outside your control. Maybe someone lied to you, betrayed you, or put you in a difficult position. That's life. But here's the part people miss. Even if the problem isn't your fault, the solution is still your responsibility. You can't wait for the person who caused the problem to suddenly feel guilty and make it right. They might never do that. If you want your life to improve, you have to act. whether or not it was fair. Imagine two people with the same setback. One spends weeks talking about how unfair it was and repeating the story to anyone who caused it, and repeating the story to anyone who will listen. The other person takes a day to feel the frustration, then gets up and starts making changes. 6 months later, the first person is still bitter and stuck. The second person is in a better place, maybe not perfect, but moving forward. The difference isn't luck, it's responsibility. Depending on yourself doesn't mean you never ask for help. It means you take the lead in your own life. You decide what needs to be done, and if you bring someone in, it's to assist you, not to take over. You remain in control of the process. That way, even if they fail you, your progress doesn't stop. You're not left helpless because you were never relying on them completely. You can practice this in small ways every single day. If your car breaks down, instead of complaining about the mechanic or bad roads, start learning about basic car care so you can prevent future issues. If your boss criticizes your work, instead of blaming the company, look for ways to improve your skills or find a better position. If your health is declining, instead of blaming genetics, take steps to improve your lifestyle. Every choice like this reinforces the belief that you are in control. The psychological benefit is massive. The more you act instead of blame, the more capable you feel. That confidence spills into every part of your life. You become someone people can trust because they know you'll handle things. You become someone you can trust because you've proven to yourself that you can face problems and work through them. There's also a financial advantage to this mindset. People who depend on themselves build skills faster, make better decisions, and waste less time. That translates into more opportunities, more income, and more stability. When you're not blaming others, you're focused on what you can do today to improve your situation. And over time, those actions compound. You find yourself in places you never thought possible, simply because you didn't wait for someone else to fix things for you. Of course, this path isn't without setbacks. You will make mistakes. You will take responsibility for something and still fail. That's part of the process. But when you've trained yourself to depend on you, even failure becomes fuel. You look at what went wrong, you adjust, and you try again. There's no shame in that. In fact, it's one of the most respectable ways to live. If you're serious about learning to depend on yourself, start with this challenge. For the next 30 days, don't blame anyone for anything you could solve. Every time something goes wrong, pause and ask yourself, what can I do about this right now? Then do it. Don't explain. Don't complain. Act. You'll be shocked at how quickly you start to feel more in control. When you make this shift, something powerful happens. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, and you start seeing yourself as the driver of your life. That changes the way you walk into a room, the way you talk to people, the way you handle pressure. People notice the difference. And opportunities open up because people respect those who take charge. Remember, no one respects constant blame. People might listen to you complain for a while, but eventually they tune out. Action, on the other hand, earns respect. When you stop blaming and start acting, you become the kind of person people look to for leadership. And when you lead yourself well, you can lead others if you choose to. Blame is easy. Responsibility is hard, but responsibility is where growth lives. If you want to depend on yourself, you have to stop handing your power away. That means accepting that, fair or unfair, your life is in your hands, no one else's. The faster you embrace that truth, the faster you start building the life you actually want. Every great achievement starts with a single decision. I will take control. And control begins where blame ends. So make today the day you end the habit of pointing fingers and start the habit of finding solutions. Not for anyone else's approval, not to prove a point, but because you deserve a life where you're in charge. The choice is yours. You can keep telling yourself the story of who's at fault, or you can start writing the story of what you did about it. Only one of those stories will take you where you want to go. And the moment you choose it, you're already stronger than you were yesterday. Number 2, make decisions quickly and live with the outcome. One of the fastest ways to build trust in yourself is to stop dragging your feet when a decision needs to be made. Many people delay making choices because they're scared of the wrong outcome. They run the decision through their head over and over, hoping for absolute certainty before they act. The problem is, life doesn't give you perfect clarity in advance. The longer you wait, the more opportunities you let slip, and the more dependent you become on other people's opinions. If you want to depend on yourself, you have to decide faster and accept what comes with it. A quick decision isn't about being reckless. It's about training your mind to act with the information you have, instead of waiting for more information that might never come. The world moves quickly, and hesitation often costs more than a mistake. If you delay, someone else takes the chance you could have had, and you're left with regret. Regret is much harder to carry than the weight of a decision that didn't go perfectly. When you decide quickly, you develop a certain sharpness. You stop asking everyone what they think before you move forward. You take in what you need to know, you weigh it, and you act. That's how you build a stronger instinct. It's how you stop leaning on others to give you permission to move. A person who can decide and commit gains respect because others see them as someone who takes responsibility instead of waiting for the right moment. Of course, the moment you choose, you also take ownership of the outcome. If it works out, you learn what's effective and repeat it. If it doesn't work out, you learn what to adjust next time. Both ways you win because you've gained experience. People who delay decisions are often trying to avoid the discomfort of being wrong. But being wrong is part of progress. Every skilled person in any field has a history of mistakes they owned and learned from. The ability to face a less than perfect result without running from it is a strength that sets you apart. The truth is, you can't live fully if you're always standing at the edge, trying to see the end of the road before taking a step. You can think, you can plan, but there comes a point where more thinking becomes a way to hide. By deciding quickly, you show yourself that you're willing to take the lead in your own life. And the more you do this, the more confident you become in your ability to handle whatever follows. There's a kind of energy that comes from deciding and acting. You feel movement. You see progress. You stop sitting in the same place wondering, what if? This forward motion changes how you see yourself. You begin to believe you can handle more. Your decisions become less about fear and more about direction. You start thinking in terms of what's next instead of should I. Quick decisions don't mean careless choices. You still look at the facts, but you do it with focus. You don't waste days or weeks turning the same thought in circles. You gather what matters, cut out what doesn't, and choose. And here's the part that builds self-reliance. Once you choose, you don't keep looking back. You commit. You give that decision your full effort because you understand that doubting it halfway through will only weaken your results. Some people try to keep every option open because they're afraid of losing something. In reality, this is what keeps them stuck. A clear choice closes some doors, yes, but it also lets you walk through the one that leads forward. When you rely on yourself, you stop waiting for every door to be guaranteed. You choose one, step through, and deal with what's there. That's how you keep momentum. You'll also notice something else when you make decisions quickly. People will start to follow your lead. In a world full of hesitation, someone who can choose and stand by it is rare. You become the person who moves projects forward, who gets things done, who others can depend on. This doesn't just make you more independent. It makes you more influential. People naturally gravitate towards someone who acts with clarity and purpose. If you've been slow to decide in the past, it's not too late to change. You can start practicing right now. The next time you face a choice, big or small, give yourself a clear deadline. It could be 5 minutes for something small, a day for something big. Gather the key facts, decide, and commit. Do this consistently, and you'll find that your confidence in your own judgment grows quickly. You'll also find that you make fewer poor choices over time because you're training your ability to think clearly under pressure. Living with the outcome is where real growth happens. It's easy to make a choice if you think everything will go perfectly. The challenge is to make the choice knowing it might not, and still move forward without blaming anyone else. This is where you separate yourself from the crowd. Most people want the reward without the risk. They want guarantees before they act. But those who depend on themselves understand that guarantees don't exist, and they're willing to move anyway. When you live with the outcome, you stop wasting time replaying the decision in your head. You don't get stuck in what if, because you're too busy working with what is. That mindset makes you adaptable. You become someone who can face change without fear, because you've trained yourself to work with reality, not fight it. In the process, you build resilience. Every decision you make and see through adds a layer of strength. You start to notice that even if a choice doesn't lead to the result you wanted, you're still standing. You're still moving. You've proven to yourself that you can survive and adjust. And that knowledge makes you bolder with every choice. People sometimes think independence means never making a bad decision. That's not true. Independence means you take full responsibility for every decision, good or bad, and you use the result to grow. It means you don't freeze in the face of uncertainty. You decide, you act, and you learn. That process, repeated over time, is what gives you the ability to stand on your own in any situation. If you want to be someone who truly depends on themselves, you have to break the habit of endless hesitation. You have to accept that progress requires action, and action requires decisions. The longer you sit waiting for the perfect choice, the more you lose to fear, and fear will keep you dependent on others to decide for you. So start today. Choose faster. Commit fully. Accept the outcome, adjust if needed, then choose again. Every time you do this, you take another step toward real independence. Not the kind that's just talked about, but the kind you live every day. The kind that makes you capable, confident, and in control of your own life. Number 3, teach yourself skills that make you valuable anywhere. If you want to be truly independent, you have to carry something inside you that no one can take away. Skills that make you valuable no matter where you go. Money can be lost. Jobs can disappear. People can change their minds about you. But the skills you've learned, practiced, and mastered stay with you. They go wherever you go. They work for you in every environment, in every economy, in every situation. That's why relying on yourself starts with investing in your abilities. When you have skills that others need, you're never stuck. You're never trapped in a situation where you feel powerless. You don't have to beg for an opportunity. You can create one. The people who survive and thrive in life are not the ones who depend on the stability of a single job or a single connection. They are the ones who have built enough skill to adapt anywhere. They are useful, and usefulness is power. The first step is identifying what skills will make you valuable in the real world. Look around at the people who are respected, sought after, and paid well. They have something specific they can do that others can't easily replace. It could be the ability to lead, to sell, to fix, to teach, to create, to negotiate, or to solve difficult problems. It's not always about having a rare skill. Sometimes it's about being exceptional at a skill many people have, but few people master. Once you know which skills matter, the second step is making a personal commitment to learn them deeply. This is not about dabbling or picking up bits and pieces. It's about putting in the hours, the repetition, the study, and the practice until that skill becomes second nature. A skill you've barely learned is fragile. It can fade, and it won't hold up under pressure. A skill you've mastered is solid. It will hold its value in any situation. The most dangerous thing you can do is assume your current skills are enough to carry you for life. The world changes fast. Technology evolves. Industries shift. What's in demand today may not be in demand 5 years from now. If you depend only on what you already know, you risk becoming outdated. People who depend on themselves keep learning. They see education as an ongoing responsibility, not something that ended when school did. You also have to take ownership of your learning. No one is going to force you to upgrade yourself. No one is going to make you sit down and practice. If you're waiting for a boss to train you or for someone to hand you an opportunity to learn, you're already behind. The most valuable people are the ones who take initiative. They find courses, books, mentors, and experiences on their own. They don't wait to be told what to do. They seek it out. A strong skill set does more than make you valuable in the market. It changes the way you see yourself. You walk differently when you know you can contribute anywhere. You speak with more authority when you know you have proof of your abilities. You don't fear losing a job or a position because you know you can take your skills somewhere else and succeed again. That kind of confidence is not fake. It's built from evidence, from the results you've created through what you can do. Skills also open doors you didn't even know existed. Sometimes one skill leads to another. For example, learning how to communicate clearly might lead you to opportunities in leadership. Learning how to sell could open doors in business. Learning a technical skill might give you the chance to work remotely or in industries you never considered. When you expand your abilities, you expand your options. You have to be strategic about the skills you choose. Not every skill is worth equal effort. Some skills give you leverage. They multiply your ability to earn, connect, and adapt. Others are nice to have, but won't move your life forward in a meaningful way. Focus on the ones that solve real problems for people. When you solve problems, you create value. When you create value, you gain independence. And don't just think about hard skills. Soft skills matter just as much. The ability to work well with others, to manage your time, to stay disciplined, to think critically, and to adapt quickly. These are skills that make you stand out. They're harder to measure, but they're often the reason one person gets chosen over another with the same technical ability. The process will take time, and you'll have moments where it feels slow, but remember, every hour you put into building a skill is an hour you're adding to your independence. The work you do today pays off tomorrow in ways you can't predict. One day, someone will face a problem they can't solve, and you'll be the person they call. That's when you realize the real power of being valuable. You're needed, you're respected, and you're in control of how you use that position. The more skills you collect and refine, the less you have to fear change. You can move to a new city, enter a new industry, or start over entirely and still find your place. That's a freedom most people will never know because they've tied their survival to one environment or one source of income. They're always a step away from panic if that one thing disappears. You don't have to live like that if you make yourself valuable everywhere. Value is not about titles or positions. It's about capability. You could lose your title tomorrow, but if you still have the skill, you still have the power to create income, opportunities, and respect. That's why the effort is worth it. It's building something inside you that can't be taken away. If you take this seriously, you'll notice a shift. People will see you differently. You'll start being treated as someone worth investing in, worth trusting with responsibility. Not because you asked for it, but because you've proven you can deliver. That's the advantage of having skills. You don't have to talk about your worth. Your work speaks for you. Self-reliance is not just about having the confidence to stand alone. It's about having the ability to stand alone. Confidence without ability is just talk. Ability without confidence is wasted potential. You need both, and the way to get both is to keep learning, keep practicing, and keep sharpening what you can do. When you make skill building a lifelong habit, you never have to wonder how you'll survive if things change. You'll know you can walk into any room, any company, any market, and bring something people need. That's what it means to be truly valuable. That's what it means to depend on yourself. Number 4, Refuse help until you have tried on your own. If you want to become truly independent, you have to train yourself to face problems without immediately reaching for someone else to solve them. Too many people ask for help before they've even tried to figure it out on their own. They skip the struggle, and in doing so, they skip the growth. Every time you refuse help until you've done everything you can by yourself, you build the skills, resilience, and confidence that will carry you through life. When you make this a habit, you stop thinking of help as the first step and start seeing it as the last resort. That shift changes everything. You stop feeling powerless because you learn to rely on your own mind, your own hands, and your own determination. The moment you give yourself the chance to solve something alone, you take control of the outcome. You're no longer waiting for someone else's schedule, decision, or approval. Trying on your own forces you to think differently. You start asking better questions. You explore different angles. You look for resources you didn't notice before. You push yourself further than you thought you could go. Many times you'll surprise yourself by realizing you're capable of more than you imagine. And every time you find a solution without outside help, you're reinforcing the belief that you can handle life. There's a big difference between someone who can solve a problem and someone who can only move forward if someone else tells them how. One has freedom, the other is dependent. If you lean on others too soon, you train your mind to believe you need them for everything. That dependency doesn't just slow you down, it weakens you. It makes you unsure of yourself even in situations you could handle alone. Refusing help at the start doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. It means you're giving yourself the first opportunity to act. It's about taking ownership of the challenge and exhausting your options before you involve someone else. By doing this, you respect your own ability to learn and grow. You also respect other people's time by coming to them only when you've reached the limit of what you can do. When you work through a problem without help, you build mental toughness. You develop patience because you can't just hand it off to someone else. You learn discipline because you have to stay with it until you see progress. You become more resourceful because you're forced to think creatively. These are qualities that stay with you for life, and they all come from resisting the urge to pass the problem on. This approach also makes you more valuable to others. People respect those who make an effort before asking for assistance. If you constantly come to someone without trying first, you become a burden. But if you show that you've put in the work and still need help, they see you as serious and committed. That kind of reputation makes people more willing to help you when you truly need it. The real benefit is the internal change. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop second-guessing every move because you've proven you can figure things out. You also stop fearing failure, because even if your first attempt doesn't work, you know you can try again. The fear of not knowing disappears because you've built a track record of learning as you go. You can start practicing this right now. The next time you face a challenge, whether it's fixing something, learning something, or solving a personal problem, commit to trying everything you can think of before asking for help. Search for answers, test different approaches, stay with it until you know for certain that you've done all you can. Only then, if you still need guidance, go to someone else. And when you do, you'll be asking better questions and getting better answers because you'll understand the problem more deeply. This habit also teaches you self-discipline. It forces you to stop looking for the easy way out. It's tempting to pass your problems to others because it feels quicker. But quick is not the same as better. Every time you take the longer route and handle it yourself, you're building a stronger version of you. That strength pays off in every part of your life. Over time, you'll notice something powerful. The problems that once felt overwhelming will start to feel manageable. The situations where you used to panic will feel like just another task. You won't need to wait for someone to step in. You'll know that you can start taking action immediately. That confidence is worth more than any single piece of advice, because it's yours to keep. Refusing help until you've tried on your own also sharpens your decision-making. You're forced to choose a path and commit to it, instead of waiting for someone else to choose for you. Even if it's not the perfect choice, you learn from it, and the next time you'll make a better one. This constant cycle of acting, learning, and adjusting turns you into someone who can handle uncertainty without freezing. You'll also find that your respect for help changes. When you've done the work first, you appreciate help more when it comes. You listen more closely. You understand the value of the advice you're getting. You're not wasting anyone's time. and you're not taking the support for granted. That makes you a better learner and a better problem solver. The more you practice this, the more independent you become. You'll start to realize that many of the situations where you once felt stuck were only that way because you didn't give yourself the chance to figure them out. You'll see that the answers were often within your reach. You just had to stretch for them. That's a lesson you can only learn by doing. In the end, this is about pride in your own effort. It's about knowing that you faced something and handled it yourself, even if it was hard. That pride isn't arrogance. It's the quiet confidence that comes from proving yourself to yourself. And that's one of the most valuable things you can carry through life. If you live by this principle, you'll become the kind of person who can walk into any challenge and start working without waiting for someone to hold your hand. You'll be seen as reliable, capable, and strong. And most importantly, you'll know deep down that you can depend on you. That's the kind of security no one else can give you. You have to earn it. Number 5. Accept that no one will care like you do. One of the hardest truths you'll have to accept if you want to depend on yourself is that no one will ever care about your life, your dreams, or your goals as much as you do. People may support you, they may encourage you, some will even help you along the way. But the level of concern, urgency, and dedication you feel for your own life will never match what they feel. That's not because people are bad or selfish. It's because everyone has their own lives, their own problems, and their own priorities. If you don't take full ownership of your future, no one else will. When you truly accept this, your approach to life changes. You stop expecting others to constantly push you, remind you, or motivate you. You stop waiting for someone to step in and rescue you when things get tough. You understand that while others may care in their own way, the responsibility to act rests entirely on you. This mindset shift takes you out of dependency and puts you in control. Too many people are held back because they believe someone else will make their success a priority. They assume their boss will look out for their career, that their friends will push them to do better, or that their family will hold them accountable. And when that doesn't happen, they feel betrayed or disappointed. But the truth is, it's not anyone's job to care more about your goals than you. If it matters to you, you have to protect it, feed it, and fight for it yourself. You have to understand that your life is always going to be a side note in someone else's story. Even the people closest to you will be most focused on their own challenges and ambition. If you keep expecting them to give your plans the same attention you do, you'll waste time feeling let down instead of doing the work that needs to be done. This acceptance doesn't mean you shut everyone out or become cold. It means you stop building your life around the expectation that others will carry the same weight you do. It means you prepare yourself to move forward, even if no one else is pushing you. You become self-driven because you know that your energy is the only one you can rely on without question. Once you embrace this, you stop relying on external validation. You don't need constant reassurance to keep moving. You still appreciate encouragement when it comes, but you don't depend on it to take action. You know that if you wait for applause, you'll move slower, and slow movement costs you opportunities. This mindset will also protect you from frustration when people let you down. There will be times when you think someone should step in, give advice, or help you out, and they won't. If you've built your mindset around the truth that your life matters most to you, you won't collapse when that happens. You'll already be prepared to take the next step without them. People may tell you they care, and often they mean it. But caring in words is different from caring in action. You can't confuse someone's kind words with their willingness to carry your burden. Your progress depends on what you do consistently, not what others say they'll do for you. If someone helps you, be grateful, but never build your plan assuming they will. The strongest people are the ones who have learned to move forward when no one is watching. They work when the room is empty. They push themselves without being told. They hold themselves to a standard that isn't dependent on anyone else's reminder. This is the level of responsibility that makes you untouchable in the best way. Because no one can take away your drive if it comes from you. Accepting that no one will care like you do also makes you better at protecting your time and energy. When you know you're the main person fighting for your goals, you stop wasting effort on things that don't matter. You start making choices that align with what's important to you, not what's convenient for others. That doesn't mean you stop helping people. It means you don't sacrifice your mission to meet someone else's expectations when it harms your progress. You'll also begin to notice who in your life genuinely supports you and who just says they do. The people who truly want the best for you will respect your independence. They won't be offended when you take charge of your own path. In fact, they'll often be inspired by it. And while they may not care as deeply as you do, their encouragement will still have value, just not as the foundation of your drive. This shift also makes you more resilient to setback. When you rely on others to push you forward, a setback can feel like the end, because you lose both progress and the support you were counting on. But when you're your own primary source of motivation, a setback is just another challenge to solve. You don't stop because you were never moving for someone else in the first place. In your work, this mindset gives you an edge. Employers, clients, and partners notice when someone takes ownership instead of waiting for direction. They see the difference between someone who needs constant oversight and someone who handles things without being told. The latter becomes indispensable because they're not just doing a task. They're taking responsibility for outcome. If you're building something for yourself, a career, a business, a personal goal, the ability to operate without relying on others' investment in your vision is critical. You'll face moments where it feels like no one sees what you see, and that's fine. They don't have to. You have to. If you see the value in what you're building, you keep going. If you wait for everyone to understand or care, you'll slow down to match their pace. And their pace is rarely urgent enough for your future. The sooner you internalize this, the freer you become. You no longer feel resentment when people don't check in on your progress. You no longer get discouraged when you don't receive constant encouragement. You understand that this is your life to build, and no one is obligated to carry it for you. This doesn't make you bitter, it makes you independent. When you take full responsibility, you also create an environment where any support you do get becomes a bonus, not a necessity. You can appreciate it without being dependent on it. This keeps you in control because your success isn't tied to someone else's level of interest in your journey. This way of thinking isn't about being alone, it's about being prepared. It's about knowing that no matter how much people love you, their lives will always take priority in their minds, just as yours should for you, and that's not a bad thing. It's the reality of being human. When you live with this understanding, you stop being disappointed by normal human behavior. You stop expecting others to care at your level, and instead you use your energy to keep moving. You focus on what you can control, your effort, your decisions, your consistency, and that focus is what will get you where you want to go. The truth is, if you don't care enough to push yourself, no one else can make up for it. If you're not willing to fight for your own life, you can't expect others to fight harder than you. Accept this, own it, and act on it. Because the moment you do, you'll stop waiting for someone else to carry the weight, and you'll start carrying it yourself. And that's when real progress begins. Number 6, face your fears without asking someone to stand by. Fear has a way of making you look for someone to lean on. It pushes you to call a friend, wait for reassurance, or seek permission before you take action. That might feel safe, but it robs you of the strength that comes from facing fear on your own. If you always need someone to stand by you, you'll never know how capable you really are. Independence means meeting your fear head-on without waiting for someone else to make it easier. When you face fear alone, you're forced to rely on your own courage. You don't get to borrow strength from anyone else. You have to find it within yourself, and that's where real growth happens. You start realizing that fear isn't as powerful as it looks once you take the first step toward it. The moment you move forward without someone holding your hand, you begin to break the grip fear has over you. Waiting for someone to stand by you can turn into a habit. You tell yourself you can't take action until you have backup. You convince yourself that you need moral support to do anything risky. Over time, this becomes dependency disguised as caution. You start missing opportunities because you can't gather the courage alone. This is how fear wins. Not because you weren't strong enough, but because you refused to test your own strength. Facing fear without a safety net teaches you that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act while fear is present. Every time you take action without asking someone to be there, you build the ability to handle discomfort. That discomfort is valuable. It's what shapes you into someone who can stand in any situation without falling apart. The truth is, no one can fully feel your fear the way you do. They can encourage you, but they can't remove the pressure inside you. That's why it's your job to confront it directly. The more you depend on someone else to be there, the less you train your own mind to work under stress. You need to know that you can step forward even when your heart is racing, even when your hands are shaking, even when your mind is trying to talk you out of it. Fear doesn't disappear by talking about it endlessly or by waiting for the perfect conditions. It disappears through action. When you act without a crowd, without applause, without anyone there to say you've got this, you teach yourself that you are enough. You don't need permission, and you don't need protection. You are capable of facing the unknown because you've done it before, and you've survived. There will be times when the fear feels overwhelming. Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a career move, or a personal challenge you've been avoiding. The easy route is to wait until someone can stand beside you. But here's the truth. There will never be a perfect moment, and the people you're waiting for might not always be available. If you make your courage dependent on their presence, you give away control over your own progress. You don't need someone to watch you to prove that you can do it. In fact, the moments you face fear alone often become the ones that define you the most. They're private victories. No audience, no praise, just you proving to yourself that you can take the step. That's where self-respect comes from. Not from telling others what you did, but from knowing deep down you didn't run. When you start doing this, you notice a shift. The fear doesn't vanish completely, but it loses its control over you. You begin to see it as a signal to act rather than a warning to stop. You realize that the story you built in your head about how bad it could be was often far worse than the reality. That realization stays with you, making it easier to face the next challenge. People often underestimate how much they can handle alone. They assume that without someone's presence, they'll fall apart. But most of the time, what really happens is the opposite. You rise to the occasion because you have no choice. When there's no one to lean on, you discover new levels of focus, problem solving, and determination. You surprise yourself with how resourceful you can be. Facing fear without help also builds self-trust. You start believing in your own ability to handle whatever comes after the first step. You stop doubting yourself because you've already seen what you can do under pressure. This kind of trust doesn't come from reading books about courage or listening to motivational speeches. It comes from personal experience. It's important to understand that fear thrives in hesitation. The longer you wait for someone to join you, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you move forward, you start weakening its hold. It's like breaking a cycle. Each solo action you take chips away at fear's power over you. This doesn't mean you should never accept help in life. It means you shouldn't make help a condition for your bravery. When you can stand alone in your most anxious moments, you create freedom. You're not tied to anyone's schedule, approval, or willingness to be there. You move when you decide to move. And when you do have people around, you're stronger for it. You're not leaning on them to supply courage. You're standing alongside them as someone who brings their own. That makes your relationships healthier because you're not draining others with constant reliance. You'll also notice that people respect you more when they see you face difficult situations on your own. They see you as capable and dependable, not as someone who needs hand-holding to make a move. That reputation creates opportunities because people trust those who can operate independent. Start testing yourself in small ways. Do something that makes you nervous without telling anyone. Have the conversation you've been avoiding without rehearsing it with a friend first. Take on a challenge at work without asking for guidance before you start. Each time you do this, you're adding another layer to your courage. Over time, these layers make you unshakable. One day, you'll face something that would have stopped the old you, but because you've trained yourself to act without waiting for backup, you'll move forward anyway. You won't waste time looking around to see who's with you. You'll already know the answer. You're with you, and that's enough. That's the goal. Not to eliminate fear completely, but to make sure it never decides your limit. To build a life where you can step into the unknown without hesitation. Not because it's easy, but because you've learned to trust yourself in the moments when you're alone. When you can do that, you've built the kind of independence that no one can give you, and no one can take away. Number 7, earn respect by handling your struggles without showing weakness. Respect isn't something people hand you just because you exist. It's something you earn through your actions, through the way you carry yourself, especially when life isn't going your way. People pay attention to how you handle your struggles. They notice whether you collapse under pressure or stand firm. They see whether you turn your problems into an excuse or a reason to grow. If you want respect, you have to show that you can face difficulty without breaking down in front of everyone, without using it as a tool for pity, and without letting it define you in a negative way. Handling your struggles without showing weakness doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It doesn't mean denying your pain or bottling up emotions until they destroy you. It means you choose your moments carefully. You deal with your challenges privately. You work through them with self-control, and you let the results speak for you. You know how to ask for help when it's truly necessary, but you don't use every setback as a performance to gain sympathy. You understand that the way you present yourself in tough times shapes how people treat you. When others see that you can hold yourself together during a difficult situation, their trust in you grows. They know you're not going to panic when things get hard. They know you won't drag them down with constant complaint. Instead, they see someone steady, someone they can rely on when pressure is high. That kind of reputation is powerful, and it's built through consistent self-discipline in the face of adversity. In life, there are always moments when your private reality is heavier than what anyone else can see. Maybe your finances are a mess. Maybe you're dealing with personal loss. Maybe you're working in an environment that challenges you every day. Whatever the struggle, your ability to keep moving forward without broadcasting weakness determines how much influence you can maintain. People respect strength, and strength is often silent. It's the quiet decision to keep showing up, to keep producing results, even when you're hurting inside. Some confuse strength with coldness, but they're not the same. Strength is about control. It's about choosing when and where to express your struggles, so they don't undermine your credibility. If you're in a leadership role, at work, or in your personal life, the way you handle your own problems sets the tone for everyone around you. If you lose control in public every time life hits you, people lose confidence in your ability to lead. On the other hand, if they see you handle challenges with composure, they start to trust you even more. Part of earning respect this way is refusing to let your struggles become your identity. It's easy to get caught up in telling people how hard things are for you. You might think it helps them understand, but often it just shifts their perception of you from capable to fragile. This doesn't mean you never talk about your challenges. It means you're intentional about it. You share when it can help someone else, or when it's productive, not as a habit or as a way to gain validation. Handling struggles without showing weakness also means taking responsibility for how you respond. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you deal with it. If you face a setback, your first move should be to focus on what you can do next, not on how unfair it is. This approach keeps you in control and prevents you from slipping into a victim mindset, which erodes respect quickly. The more you practice this, the stronger you become. You start to notice that your struggles don't shake you as much because you've trained yourself to handle them with purpose instead of panic. You see challenges as situations to manage, not as reasons to crumble. This makes you stand out in any environment, because most people let their emotions control them in hard times. Respect is also built by results, and results come from consistent action, even when things are difficult. If you stop working on your goals every time a struggle shows up, you'll always be starting over. But if you keep going even at a slower pace, you show others and yourself that you're dependable. People remember who kept showing up when things got hard. They notice who stayed the course. It's worth understanding that not everyone will know what you're going through, and that's okay. You don't need everyone to know. What matters is that you know and that you keep moving anyway. When you operate from this mindset, you become a stabilizing force. Whether it's in your family, at work, or in your community, people feel they can count on you, not because you have an easy life, but because you handle a hard one well. One of the most damaging things you can do to your own reputation is to constantly put your struggles on display without taking action to address them. People respect effort and progress, even if it's slow. They lose respect when they see the same complaints over and over with no movement forward. That's why it's important to work on solutions, even if they take time, and to keep your focus on where you're going, not just on what's wrong. This isn't about hiding who you are or pretending to be perfect. It's about building a track record of resilience. Resilience is noticed, it's remembered, and it often speaks louder than any words you could use to describe yourself. People will recall the times you handled something tough without falling apart. They'll talk about how you kept your commitments, how you didn't let circumstances define you. That's how you become someone whose name carries weight. The truth is, life will keep testing you. You can't control that. What you can control is your posture when it happens. You can decide whether you face challenges with a steady hand or let them break your image in front of others. You can choose to manage your emotions and protect your credibility. This choice, made repeatedly, is what builds the kind of respect that stays with you. When you earn respect by handling your struggles without showing weakness, you're not just building a public image, you're building private strength. You're proving to yourself that you can stand in the middle of difficulty and not let it own you. You're learning that you can carry the weight without needing constant reassurance. That self-belief is more valuable than any outside opinion, because it stays with you no matter who's watching. If you want to stand out, master this skill. Be the person who keeps moving, keeps producing, keeps holding themselves together when things are hard. Be the person who doesn't let struggle turn into a public performance. Show the world that you can carry your own weight and still move forward. Over time, that quiet strength will speak louder than anything you could say, and the respect it earns will be real, lasting, and deserved. Number 8. Stop waiting for motivation and start taking real action. Most people waste years waiting for a feeling before they move. They wait for that spark, that rush, that perfect moment when they feel ready to work on their goals. The problem is, motivation doesn't show up on its own. It's unreliable. It comes and goes based on your mood, your environment, and 100 other things you can't control. If you keep waiting for it, you'll keep waiting for results. The only way forward is to act, whether you feel motivated or not. Action is what creates momentum, and momentum is what eventually builds motivation, not the other way around. When you understand this, you stop making excuses. You stop telling yourself, I'll start when I feel like it, or I need to get motivated first. You start moving because you know that action itself is the trigger for progress. You can't think yourself into discipline. You can't talk yourself into consistency. You have to move, even in the smallest way, to break the inertia that holds you back. The truth is, most successful people don't wake up every day excited to work. They've trained themselves to show up regardless of how they feel. They've built habits that operate without waiting for an emotional push. They understand that feelings follow actions, not the other way around. Once you take the first step, your mind begins to shift. You start to feel engaged. You start to care more. But if you sit around waiting to feel ready, that shift never comes. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. Those are the days when it's most important to take action anyway. Every time you push yourself to work when you don't want to, you're strengthening your ability to perform under less than perfect conditions. That's what separates people who move forward from those who stay stuck. Life won't always give you the perfect mood or environment to act. You have to learn to create progress in imperfect situations. Small, consistent action beats occasional bursts of high energy every time. If you do something meaningful for your goals every day, no matter how you feel, you'll look back in a few months and realize you've built something solid. Waiting for motivation leads to inconsistency, and inconsistency kills progress. But daily action, even when it's uncomfortable, compounds into results that motivation alone could never create. This mindset also forces you to take responsibility for your progress. If you blame your lack of results on not being motivated, you're giving your control away to something unpredictable. But when you decide to act no matter what, You take back control. You can't change your emotions instantly, but you can choose what you do in the next 5 minutes. That choice is where the real power is. One of the best ways to break the habit of waiting is to set clear, non-negotiable actions for yourself each day. You don't wait to feel like brushing your teeth or eating a meal. You do it because it's part of your day. Your goals should be treated the same way. If it's on your list, it gets done, whether you're in the mood or not. That discipline removes the mental debate and turns action into something automatic. There's another important point. The first step is usually the hard. Starting often feels heavier than continuing. Once you're in motion, you find your rhythm. But many people never get there because they don't push past that initial resistance. If you can learn to start without overthinking, you'll discover that your energy often increases as you work. That's why just start is such a powerful rule. It gets you past the point where most people quit before they even begin. You also have to stop romanticizing motivation. Too many people believe they need to feel inspired before they can do something important. Inspiration is great when it's there, but it's not a foundation you can build a life on. Real change happens when you keep moving during the uninspired days. Those days prove that your commitment is real. They prove that you value progress over comfort. When you live this way, you also stop being dependent on outside forces to push you. You don't need someone to hype you up. You don't need the perfect playlist, the perfect weather, or the perfect timing. You develop the ability to create your own push from within. That's a form of freedom most people never reach, because they're always waiting for something external to drive them. Taking action without motivation also changes the way you see yourself. You start to view yourself as someone who gets things done, regardless of the circumstances. That identity is powerful because it shapes your future choices. If you believe you're disciplined, you'll act in disciplined ways. If you believe you only act when you feel like it, you'll keep proving yourself right. Every time you take action without motivation, you're reinforcing the identity of a disciplined, reliable person. The reality is, nothing changes until you do. Thinking about it doesn't move you forward. Planning without action doesn't change your life. Motivation may inspire you to start, but it's action that transforms you. And the more you practice taking action without needing to feel ready, the less you rely on fleeting emotions to guide your life. You have to accept that some days will be a grind. Some days you'll be tired, stressed, or unmotivated. And you'll have to work through it anyway. Those are the days that matter most because they build the mental toughness to keep going long term. Anyone can act when they feel inspired. The real test is whether you act when you don't. If you can train yourself to show up every day, no matter how you feel, you'll have a massive advantage over the majority of people who are still waiting for the right mood to strike. You'll be moving forward while they're still sitting still. Over time, the gap between you and them becomes impossible to close. So stop looking for motivation as the key to action. Flip it around. Use action to create motivation. Decide that today, you'll take one step forward, no matter what. Then do it again tomorrow. Before long, you won't be relying on temporary feelings to fuel you. You'll have built a habit of forward movement that carries you through anything. That's how you create results that last. Number 9. Learn to enjoy solving problems without outside opinions. If you want to build real independence, you have to develop the ability to solve problems without running to someone else for approval or guidance. Every time something feels uncertain, this is not about ignoring advice forever. It's about learning to trust your own thinking enough to work through situations without relying on outside opinions as your main decision-making tool. Many people never reach this point because they've built a habit of looking to others for validation before they act. They don't realize that this dependence slowly erodes their confidence and keeps them from growing their own problem-solving ability. The more you practice handling problems yourself, the more skilled and resourceful you become. You stop viewing every challenge as something that needs a committee to solve. You start seeing it as a chance to sharpen your judgment, to test your ideas, and to prove to yourself that you can think through complexity on your own. This shift doesn't just make you stronger in private. It also makes people see you different. You're no longer the one who constantly asks what to do next. You're the one who figures it out and moves forward. Learning to enjoy solving problems without outside opinions means you embrace the process, not just the outcome. You understand that working through uncertainty, weighing options, and taking responsibility for the result is where the real growth happens. You don't look at it as a burden. You look at it as an opportunity to build skill. The more you lean into this, the less you fear making mistakes, because you know mistakes are part of how you learn to think more effectively. It also forces you to stop hiding behind the excuse of, "I don't know what to do." In reality, you often do have an idea of what to do. You're just afraid to commit to it without someone else confirming it. This habit keeps you from building decisiveness. If you break it, you start moving faster and more confidently because you're no longer waiting for permission. You take your own ideas seriously enough to try them before seeking anyone else's input. Solving problems without outside opinions teaches you to rely on facts, logic, and your own observation. You stop making choices based on who agrees with you and start making them based on what you know and what you can learn. You might not get it right every time, but you'll get better over time. That improvement builds a deep trust in yourself that no external advice can replace. The truth is, outside opinions are often influenced by other people's fears, biases, and limitations. When you rely on them too much, you absorb those limitations without realizing. Someone else might discourage you from trying something not because it's impossible, but because they wouldn't try it themselves. If you take their word as final, you end up living by their standards instead of your own. By learning to work through problems on your own, you protect yourself from being held back by someone else's limits. This approach also develops your creativity. When you can't immediately turn to someone else for answers, you have to think different. You dig deeper, explore more options, and find solutions that others might miss. You start noticing patterns, connections, and opportunities you wouldn't have seen if you'd simply followed someone else's suggestion. Over time, this way of thinking becomes second nature, and you find yourself coming up with solutions faster and more effectively. Enjoying the process of problem solving also means accepting the discomfort that comes with it. There will be moments when you feel stuck, frustrated, or unsure. Most people run to outside opinions at that point because they want the discomfort to end. But if you stay with the problem and keep working it through, you train yourself to handle uncertainty. That's a powerful skill because life will always give you situations where there's no clear answer and no one to tell you exactly what to do. When you start trusting your own ability to solve problems, you stop worrying about whether people will agree with you. You make decisions based on what you believe is right, not on how much approval it will get. That independence makes you harder to influence in the wrong direction. You're less likely to be swayed by popular opinion and more likely to stay on course with what matters to you. The respect you gain from this is real. People notice when you're someone who can take a challenge, think it through, and deliver a solution without constantly asking for guidance. They see you as capable, reliable, and confident. And while they might not know the amount of work that went into building that skill, they can see the results in the way you carry yourself and in the outcomes you produce. To build this ability, you can start with small problems. When something comes up, instead of immediately calling or asking someone for input, take time to work it out yourself. Write down the problem, brainstorm possible solutions, evaluate the pros and cons, and choose one to try. Pay attention to how it feels to rely on your own mind, even if it's uncomfortable at first. Over time, this will become your default approach. It's also important to separate genuine collaboration from dependence. Collaboration is valuable when you bring your own ideas to the table and work with others to refine them. Dependency is when you rely on others to think for you. The goal is to move from dependency to collaboration, to be someone who contributes solutions instead of waiting for them. The more you solve problems without outside opinions, the more you realize you don't need constant validation to make progress. You see that your own judgment, informed by your experience and willingness to learn, is often enough. And when you do seek advice, you approach it differently, not as a way to replace your thinking, but as a way to add perspective to what you've already considered. Eventually, you'll reach a point where problem solving becomes something you genuinely enjoy. You'll see challenges as a chance to test yourself, to grow sharper, and to prove to yourself that you can adapt. You'll stop feeling anxious when something unexpected comes up because you know you've handled things before. You've built a mental track record of facing situations alone and coming out stronger. This doesn't mean you have to live in isolation or never listen to anyone. It means you're no longer dependent on others to guide your every move. You have the ability to think, decide, and act without waiting for outside approval. And that ability gives you a level of control over your life that most people never experience. Once you reach this point, you'll notice something powerful. You're more confident, more decisive, and more resilient than you've ever been. You've proven to yourself that you can stand on your own in any situation, and that's not just independence. That's freedom. Number 10, prove your worth by relying only on your effort. If you want to be taken seriously, you have to show that what you achieve comes from your own effort, not from favors, luck, or someone else carrying the weight for you. Your worth is proven when you can point to your results and know they came from your discipline, your persistence, and your willingness to work harder than most. Relying on your own effort doesn't just make you independent, it builds credibility. People can respect you for many reasons, but the deepest respect comes when they see you've built something with your own hands, without leaning on shortcuts or depending on someone else's push. When everything you achieve is tied to your effort, you remove excuses from your life. You can't blame anyone for holding you back because you've built the habit of moving forward without waiting for help. You know that if you want something, you're the one who has to put in the hours, solve the problems, and keep going when it's uncomfortable. That self-reliance becomes part of your identity, and it makes you stronger with every challenge you take on. Relying on your own effort means you stop expecting opportunities to fall into your lap. You stop waiting for someone to notice your potential and hand you a chance. You understand that opportunities are created, not given, and the way you create them is through consistent work. Every skill you improve, every project you finish, every problem you solve adds to the value you bring, and that value is undeniable when it's built from effort you've personally invested. It also means you don't attach your worth to what others give you. If someone helps, you appreciate it, but you don't depend on it to move forward. You know that outside help is unpredictable, but your own work ethic is something you can control every day. That control gives you confidence, because you're not waiting for the right circumstances, you're making progress regardless of circumstance. The most respected people in any field are those who can deliver results without excuses. They don't talk about what they could have done if things were different. They talk about what they did with what they had. They work with the resources available and still produce something valuable. That mindset earns trust because it proves you can be counted on to get the job done, no matter the situation. This approach changes the way you handle challenges. When something goes wrong, you don't waste time hoping someone will fix it for you. You take ownership and find a way forward. Even if you have to start small, you start. You understand that momentum comes from movement, and you create that movement yourself. That kind of consistency builds a reputation. People begin to see you as dependable, someone who doesn't freeze under pressure but finds solutions and follows through. Proving your worth through your own effort also forces you to raise your standard. You can't hide behind the work of others or claim credit for something you didn't truly contribute to. Your results are a direct reflection of your discipline and ability, so you naturally start aiming high. You challenge yourself more, you pay attention to details, and you take pride in the quality of what you produce. Over time, this mindset makes you better in every area of life. It's also important to understand that effort is not just about working hard in bursts. It's about showing up day after day, even when progress is slow. Anyone can put in effort for a short time when they're excited or when the task is easy. What proves your worth is putting in the same dedication when it's repetitive, when it's tiring, and when no one is watching. That consistency shows that your commitment is real, not just a reaction to temporary motivation. You will face moments when relying only on yourself feels isolated. There will be times when it seems easier to wait for someone else to help. But those moments are where your strength is built. Every time you push through without leaning on others, you reinforce the belief that you are capable, and that belief is what keeps you moving forward when challenges get tougher. Over time, your track record becomes your proof. You won't need to convince people of your worth, because your results will speak for themselves. You'll be able to point to what you've done and know it came from your own discipline and persistence. That kind of credibility is hard to earn, but once you have it, it opens doors that stay open because people trust you to deliver. When you rely on your own effort, you also develop a sharper sense of responsibility. You understand that if you don't put in the work, you don't get the outcome. This removes the safety net of blaming circumstances or other people. That accountability might feel heavy at first, but it's the same weight that builds strength. You learn to take action immediately because you know no one else is going to do it for you. You also become more adaptable. Since you've built the habit of working through things yourself, You're quicker to adjust when plans change. You've trained your mind to look for solutions instead of getting stuck on problems. That adaptability makes you valuable in any situation, because you can keep moving forward without waiting for someone else to take the lead. Relying solely on your own effort also shifts your focus from seeking approval to creating results. You stop worrying about whether people are impressed in the short term and start focusing on producing work that holds up in the long term. Approval fades quickly, but results last. When you have results, you don't need to convince anyone of your ability. The evidence is there. And perhaps most importantly, this mindset builds unshakable confidence. Confidence that isn't built on praise, luck, or temporary wins, but on the knowledge that you've earned everything you have. You've put in the hours, solved the problems, and taken the steps yourself. That kind of confidence can't be faked, and it can't be taken from you. It's yours because you earned it through action. If you want to prove your worth, stop looking for someone else to validate it. Show it through the work you put in and the results you produce. Build something you can point to and say, "I did that. No one handed it to me." Over time, those results will speak louder than any words you could say, and the respect you gain will be solid, because it will be based on the truth that you relied on your own effort and delivered. If there's one thing you take from this video, let it be this: your life changes the moment you decide to stop leaning on others and start standing on your own. Every goal you have, every dream you want, depends on what you do next, not on what someone else does for you. Stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Trust yourself enough to take the first step and keep walking, even when no one is clapping for you. If this message hit you, it means you're ready to start owning your life. So don't just close this video and move on. Make today the day you act on what you've heard. And if you want more straight, no excuse lessons like this, subscribe and come back. Every video here is built to make you stronger, sharper, and more in control of your future. Your next breakthrough is only one decision away. Make it yours.